right, Richard, let's jump into the conversation we just had, me and Tommy and Colton. What kind of impact do you anticipate Boogie Flan having tomorrow night?
I would think that he'll be available to spare, some of the guards when needed, especially if they get into possible foul trouble. I'm like like you guys and some of the listeners. I'd kind of be cautious about overplaying him, and I don't think that's necessarily the plan. But spot play him, and obviously he's playing well and he's contributing. You go with him a little bit, but at the same time, what they've done the last few games or last 5-7 games or whatever, I can't remember, but they've been playing well together, and I would I'd be a little cautious of overdoing it with him.
We've talked about the dynamic of these two Hall of Fame coaches going at each other, and then the winner will probably advance to play a Hall of Fame coach on Saturday, and Rick Pitino, but they're both taking different approaches, Richard. This is the lowest seed that Bill Self has ever had at Kansas. John Calipari, it's been a long time since he's been a 10 seed and taken. I know he mentioned the underdog approach on Sunday. Do you coach differently, in your opinion, in a game like this after seasons that both Self and Cal have had?
No, maybe just maybe with a chip on your shoulder a little bit, but other than that, I don't think you change much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to dance. Yeah, literally dance with the one that brought you to the big dance in the NCAA tournament. But let's not act like you've got a head coach here that's trying to figure it out. Not only has John Calipari been in these situations before, but Richard, he's got a staff full of guys that have a ton of tournament experience.
Absolutely, and I'm sure in staff meetings they bounce things off of one another, and Cal listens, and Cal contributes, obviously, and they come up with the best way to approach each game. And I think that's obviously a strength. When you have that much experience on your staff, I think that helps tremendously. A lot of times, I think when you have experience, you don't go too high, you don't go too low. Your emotions aren't running rampant sometimes. If you have a younger coach or a younger staff or something like that, and it's not saying that the younger staff cannot be good contributors or anything like that, but I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both.
Well, and Clay brought this up on Monday with us, and I think this is a point that we talk about Boogie and shots and how many points. Let's not forget he's going to play some defense, and he will likely be one of the better defenders of the five on the floor anytime he's out there, regardless of injury, regardless of maybe offensive production. We're overlooking the other half of the game, and that's, Richard, what he's going to bring on the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah, and you're right. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if maybe one of the other guards is, having some issues with, one of the Kansas guards, you stick him on him and go from there. But, and you mentioned fresh legs, and I agree with you. He'll have fresh legs, and I'm sure he's been conditioning, but I'm not so sure he's been conditioning like he is now in practice versus on his own or even with a staff member. I could be wrong, but I think even conditioning could play a little bit of a factor as far as his minutes.
So, Richard, who are we riding this NCAA tournament? Don't know if you fill out a bracket or not, but who do you like to maybe advance far here in these next few weeks?
I haven't even got to a bracket, man. I don't do brackets. I'll be honest with you. I've done brackets here or there through the years, but I've just never been a big bracket person. But, I mean, you got to look at the SEC. I think Tennessee's a possibility, Florida. Everybody's writing off Auburn because they've lost a few games lately. But how many times do you see a team struggling, from tournament time, conference tournament time to the NCAA, and then they get hot at the right time and go deep? And you look at, obviously it's a little different, but you look at Arkansas baseball a few years ago. Well, when the SEC baseball tournament. Everybody's saying, they're a team to look out for to win the national championship. Well, they didn't even get to Omaha. So, just because a team has struggled the last 2 or 3 games doesn't mean that they can't contend. That they can get hot at the right time. You only have to win 4 games. So, right? If I'm not mistaken. No.
Yeah.
You got to win 6 to win it all, but 4 to get to the national.
I'm sorry. 6,
4 gets you to the Final Four. 6 wins you the championship. So.
Exactly. I mean, you just got to get on a hot streak, and all these teams. There's probably about 15 teams that can win the national championship. It just depends on do all of their guys get hot at the same time and go on a roll. So everybody kind of dismissing Auburn. I think it's not good. I just tend to think that it just takes a few games to get hot, and then you get on a roll, and then you're lifting the trophy.
RD, what about Auburn getting paired in the second round game against the possibility of Louisville in Kentucky? I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if Auburn advances and the Cardinals advance over Creighton, they got to play in Rupp in Kentucky, which of course that's Big Blue Town, but Louisville's what, Tommy? 2 hours away from Lexington or whatever. Bruce Pearl was not very happy about that, RD, when discussing whether they were seeded as the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, I could see that. When you're the number 1 seed, you should have just about every advantage possible. And I think he has a point. I think the committee probably should have thought that process out a little bit more. But I don't blame him.
Yeah. Richard Davenport with us, brought to you by the House of Webster. Richard, some of the stories and things filtering out of the early practices with Sam Pittman and the football team, anything stood out to you so far in spring practice, as they'll have a couple more workouts before they hit their spring break?
I was able to go to Saturday's practice. I'm going to try to make tomorrow's scrimmage, but I think there's let's just say this is early in the spring, and we'll find out obviously in the fall. But I think there's optimism that the offensive line is going to be deeper and better than it was last year. I think some of the guys that I'll be honest with you, Shaq McCoy, I thought he was going to be a development guy and probably maybe year 3, see playing time. But, of course, we're talking about the Oregon transfer, all 6'8", 350, 370 pounds of him. He's going to contend. It sounds like he's going to contend for some playing time, so that's great. That gives them some depth. I think they got about 8 or 9 guys that they believe that they could go line up and play. Where last year it wasn't that way. So I think you're going to have a little bit more depth on the offensive line. You're going to have better competition. And some of the guys that might have started last year, like Blackstock, I think he's being pushed. And from what I can tell, the receivers haven't disappointed. I think I mentioned that before going into spring practice, that they were pretty excited about the transfers and the receivers room overall period. And I think that's still the case. I think they're pretty pumped about what they got as far as wideouts.
Yeah, and I think that was my next question, was about the wide receivers, because you got so much productivity and production and catches and yards and all those things to replace, and just not a ton of names there that people are familiar with at this point.
No, you're right, and they will. And the thing is, I think also, Talon and the other quarterbacks, especially Talon, is getting used to not having, Andrew Armstrong and Tesla, and he's having to figure out who can he count on, as far as running good routes and catch the ball. So I think it's an adjustment for him, and he'll probably hook up with 2 or 3 guys that he really likes and focus on them a little bit, but you don't want him to focus too much on them. because then it makes it easier on the defenses. But I think people are going to like what they see as the quarterback and receiver relationship continues to develop.
Richard, appreciate you joining us as always, man. House of Webster, always happy to bring you the best jellies, jams, and salsas in Arkansas. You can check them out at houseofwebsters.com. I swear the strawberry preserves are the best I've ever had. I got not the strawberry one, but I got some right now with me. Artie, what you been eating on lately, man?
Mostly salsa. Mostly the salsa. I'm still doing a little bit of the apple butter, but still experimenting with some of the others. But there's not a week that doesn't go by that I'm at least 2 or 3 days a week I'm indulging.
Todd, did you get in that apple butter yet?
No, I have not. It's still sitting in my office. And I think I'm going to get a toaster here for the office so we can just make us a little toast and slather that on there in a morning. So
perfect.
And during this segment, just snack away. And then give a
No, I was noticing it this morning. It's sitting on the shelf in my office. Either needs to be taken home or we need to figure out a way to toast some bread down here. One or the other.
Well,
we can't afford eggs, so we'll just have toast. So.
Well, the eggs are coming down. Did you notice that?
Well, what are they under 8 a dozen now?
No, I think it's down around $4 or something.
Oh, that's good.
Life's getting better.
Yeah,
life's getting better. Appreciate it, Artie. We'll talk next week, buddy.
All right, man. We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here.